Well, hello everyone and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Susanna and I am joined by my colleague Sarah, and this is our What's New webinar series where we'll be covering new features from both Liberty and Illumin. Today we're going to be looking at our new features in Liberty. We'll cover some fantastic features and enhancements that come from the release version 5, build 8, patch 53. This release adds some great new features and improves on our existing offering. Features that we'll cover today include some fantastic updates to our acquisition module, integration with Google Analytics, a great new feature when importing MARC records from suppliers, and changes to the OPAC homepage, including the ability to add sub pages. And after the webinar, Sarah will be hosting a Q&A session, and that will help answer any questions you might have had through this session. Now, remember, you are able to review the full release notes in our help menu, and they can be found here. Let's now kick things off and have a look at some of the latest features for Liberty. And let's kick off with some integration changes. We've added the ability to track analytics using Google Analytics. This is a feature that'll help you track visitors to your OPAC homepage. Now, the first step is you will need a Google account set up, and it might be something you'll want to liaise with your IT or marketing team for. Once you've set it up, you can create a Google Analytics measurement ID and add it into our new parameter 7905. And this will enable Google Analytics tracking for your site. It will track visits attached to the OPAC homepage. On the screen, you can see what the new parameter looks like once it's completed with the measurement ID in place. Once you've been tracking visitors to your site and you pop back into your Google Analytics account, you might see a dashboard that looks like this. This gives you a great snapshot of the kind of people who are visiting your OPAC homepage. A great new feature. Let's now head over to Liberty and see what other features we've got in this release. And I'm just going to head over into my system. Just bear with me one moment. Thanks for waiting. Okay, so I'm just going to turn my camera off so I can see what I'm doing. So the first stop that we're going to make once I've logged in, while I've logged in, you might notice a great new pop-up. We've introduced some fantastic notices that come up as you log into the administration side of Liberty. And this is a great way for you to stay connected with our webinars, bootcamp series, user group meetings, and the like. So all you'll need to do is click on these links to follow through. And if you've closed this screen and you missed the link, you can always catch up on them here on the side at the notices area. Okay, back to our feature release. First stop will be acquisitions. Now, we've got some great changes that have come in for our acquisitions module users. Obviously, you'll need this module active to be able to take advantage of these changes. Our acquisition module streamlines order processing with the ability to access and review running budgets, easily check your expenditure and commitments against your budget, and track orders. One of the first feature enhancements I'd like to share with you sits in our orders area. We've introduced the ability to edit the budget applicable to your orders, regardless of when the order was created. Let's head over and have a look in our orders, and I'll show you what I mean. You can see for this particular order, it has a budget year that sits across 2022 to 2023. If I edit this now, I'm able to scroll down and remove this particular budget allocation. And using our new feature, I am able to now search for a budget date outside the order date. So let's say I wanted to search and split the cost for this order over multiple years. I've searched from 2019 to 2022, and you can see in the drop down here that I can now view all budgets within that period, regardless of when the order was placed.
Let's now split the cost of this across 2 budget periods, allocating 50% to this year. And let's add another value, edit the budget date, and the remaining 50% allocated to this year. Click on Save. And now you can see with this enhancement, budgets in the past or future can be selected regardless of the order date. For the next few changes I want to share with you in our acquisitions module, we will need to turn on page editing. Let's head over to System and Pages and make sure page editing is turned on. Let's now head back to our acquisitions module, and I want to share with you some great changes we've made that help you track who's changed or entered orders.
All right, so let's now edit this particular record. Click into this record, and down the bottom here, change the layout of the screen. What I want to do is move this one across, who entered, and then also who changed. And you can see they're down at the bottom of the screen here. Click on Save, and I can move on from this pop-up. And once I refresh this view again, you can see that now down the bottom, I've got a little bit of an audit trail where I can see who's entered and who's changed this particular order. This same view is able to be edited under the order histories. So let's do this one again, a bit more quickly this time. Let's scroll down to change the layout of the screen. And let's move who changed and who entered across. And we'll click on Save. And again, I can close this pop-up, back to my list. And once I go back into this order, you can see my new fields added at the bottom here. So this is a great way for you to keep track of who's editing and entering your audits. So with page editing still turned on, let's head back to the orders section of the acquisitions module, and we can add a new column into this view. We can add in a copies column. We do that by scrolling to the bottom, changing the layout of the screen, and you can see copies sit as one of the unused fields here. I might move this one up so I can pop it next to branch and then click on Save. Close this pop-up down. And if I refresh this view, you can now see I've added a column that lets me see how many copies I've ordered against each of these orders. So a nice way to get some good information at a glance in your acquisitions module's orders view. Now, this particular column, the copies column, is off by default, but it can be enabled via page editing. So just remember, you can turn that on down the bottom there. Now, staying within acquisitions, Liberty now lets you work with a single supplier to allow the MARC imports to automatically create orders within Liberty. Let's now head over to Management and Imports, and let's see how it would look. In this particular area, once you've received a MARC file, we've made modifications that once you've worked with a supplier, they've provided custom data in the MARC file. In the 6400 parameter group, that will interpret the custom tags. Now, this process is limited to supporting a single supplier. Let's import a MARC file and have a look. So I'm going to choose to import the MARC file here. Let me just choose my file. Pick that up off the desktop here. And of course, as you would with any other import, you can go ahead and customize these fields. I'm going to go ahead and choose import. Now, while this is importing, you can see that it's working here. I'll just run through some details. So this particular import setup is run via a custom MARC tag set up with the supplier under MARC fields in parameter 6400, which we'll have a look at shortly. It's using non-standard MARC filed fields, any of the 900s, which are used for custom info. So my import's ready here, and I can click to see a summary of the import. Now at the top of the screen, you can see that I've got an error that's come up, but that's no problem. I just need to check and correct as per my regular process. I can view the orders a couple of ways. The first way is using this tag search, and you can see I've got 8 new records. I've got 2 unchanged resources that have been imported here. Now, the reason for that may be they're extra copies on existing resources that I have. Let's have a look at the new records in this tag search. Here's a summary of the 8 new records imported. If I choose one of these records to have a look, you can see that an order has been created under the current orders tab. The other way that I can view the copies that have been imported using this is through an acquisitions orders search. Let's head back to my orders page, and I'm going to search using my purchase order SLK123, which was my reference for that import. And you can see now under this search, all 10 resources have come in as orders. And again, I'm able to click on the details and have a look at the order details that have been imported via that MARC file. Now, this was driven by an integration with a customer of ours working with Wheelers in New Zealand. Let's head over to the parameters now and have a look to see what that would look like. As I mentioned, it's parameter 6400. So let's head down and have a look. So in this particular parameter group, you can see that we've got some custom fields that we can edit, including the MARC subfields. When Liberty detects a MARC file coming from a nominated supplier where you've set these details up, it will create an order if the MARC file is identified as coming from that supplier. It contains the nominated order custom tag information and the relevant subfield information in the 900s. And it does not already have an order with the same order number for that resource, either in purchase orders or order history. If this sounds like something you'd like to use, or you'd like further information to enable the function, please get in touch with the SoftLink support team. We'd be more than happy to help. That's what we've got for our acquisitions module enhancements. So let's head over to the OPAC. But before we do, while I'm here in parameters, let me show you a nice change we've made, bit of fun for our search box in the OPAC. So we've added the ability for you to add a pulse to the search box on the OPAC under parameter 4241. So under this particular parameter, if you edit this and change the value to yes, when you hover the mouse over the search box in the OPAC, it will pulse slightly. So let's head over and have a look. Let me close this one down and bring up the OPAC. And you can see here that as I hover the mouse back and forth, the OPAC search box pulses slightly. A great way to draw your patron's eye to the search field. While we're here on the OPAC, let's now dig in and have a look at some of the great changes and enhancements that we've made. One of the nice changes we've made is the ability to change the size of the image in an RSS feed. You're able to edit this to create a larger thumbnail image. That's done by clicking on the edit option here on the particular information box and then scrolling down until you find this area here. The new large thumbnail image option can be found in the RSS information box edit page. It is disabled by default. One other thing to keep in mind is that this won't increase the size of the image in the RSS feed beyond what's delivered by the feed. So if it delivers a small feed image by default, that's what will be displayed, regardless of whether you choose true or false here. Let's click on true and click on save so we can have a look at what this larger thumbnail looks like. And you can see here, the larger thumbnail image appears as part of my RSS feed. Now, this might look a little bit squishy because you can see the text sort of wraps around the image. So you might be able to change that by reducing the number of columns. Let's bring that down to 2 columns and click on save. Once I scroll down then, and you can see the RSS image has refreshed to sit alongside a little blurb for that particular feed. Now, you might have seen it for those of you with eagle eyes, but we've added new homepage option button at the top. So we've consolidated the buttons that used to appear in a row at the top of the screen here into a homepage options menu. We've added submenus for information boxes, search, and also adding subpages, which I promise we'll come back and have a look at shortly. We think this new change gives better visibility to what's happening on your OPAC. Before we head over and have a look at our subpages, let's have a look at a change that we've made that has improved scope notes results in reading lists. Under your other searches and lists, we've now enabled scope notes to appear as part of the text in this column. So you can see for this particular course material list, I have some scope notes that appear here. What you can also do now is search these lists for scope notes. So if I search for my lecturer, Adele, the scope notes search results return that Adele Carson is my lecturer in the following courses, and that will take me back to the lists that contain that information. Now, there's one more feature I'd like to share with you before we head on to our subpages. Liberty's added the ability to configure a home page so it will be displayed the same for multiple branches. Now, how useful is this feature, or why would you want it? Let's say you've set up a self-circulation branch for a small library or a small branch where you'd still like a presence. Resources and borrowers might be specific to that branch. You can enable this using a new field under the branches page back in our administrator view. Let's head back there and have a look. So under system and branches, you can see here are the branches that I have set up. If I create a new branch, let's say I'm going to create a new branch called Christchurch, and I can add that in. This information will look familiar for the branch details, but right at the bottom here, what I'm able to do is choose a home page display branch. So in this instance, I'm going to choose Lawson's. Once I've done that and clicked on Save, you can see that I've created a brand new branch called Christchurch, and it's going to display exactly the same homepage details as the branch Lawson's. Let's head over to the OPAC and have a look at what that would look like. Let's view my homepage as my brand new Christchurch branch. And you can see that at the top of the menu here, I get an alert. The system's letting me know that I am viewing the branch Christchurch, but that this is shared by Lawson's branch. So any edits I make to this page will also apply to that branch. So something to keep in mind if you do decide to use this feature. Let's click on Finish now, and I'll revert back to my home page, which is Lawson's branch. And you can see I'm reminded that this home page is also shared by the new branch I created, Christchurch. So any changes I make here will flow through to that branch. Now, as I promised, let's have a look at our brand new feature for subpages. This is one of the biggest changes in our feature release. It's possible for you to add subpages to your library homepage. Now, scrolling down, you can see that I have a lot of information on this library homepage. So let's create some subpages and let's streamline the look of my homepage. For those of you who have the associated privileges, under the homepage options, you'll see the ability to add a subpage. Now, adding a subpage can be added from your homepage or also from branches. So let's add a subpage to here, and I'm going to add one and call it copyright. Now let's create that subpage. We've done it. We've created a subpage called copyright. So you can see a couple of things. First of all, I've been taken to my brand new subpage and it's blank. From here, I'm able to add information boxes directly into this subpage, or I can move them from my home page. The other thing you'll notice is that in brackets, you can see the word hidden after the name of my subpage. And that is because there's no content here at the moment. Let's head back to the home page and move some content across. So on my new copyright subpage, I'd like to move across some of my specific copyright related resources. Let's say I want to move this RSS feed. Under my options, I can move to a sub-page, and you can see from the drop-down, I can now choose copyright and move it across. From here, I can head back home, and let's move one more item across. Let's scroll down, and let's move across some useful links. And let's move that to my copyright sub-page. Now, one of the things to bear in mind about sub-pages is that they are branch specific. As an administrator, though, you'll see all the sub-pages created, regardless of the branch that they belong to. Further, the sub-page menu will only be visible once there's content added. Information boxes can be added to the sub-page, and they'll only appear on that sub-page. Now, let me show you something really cool. You can add a sub-page to your sub-page. So let's say my copyright page actually needs a field for experts. I'll create a sub-page under there, and you can see I'm now getting a nice menu on the side here where I've got some sub-pages and a sub-page. Let's go ahead and move some content across. Let's say, here we go. No one ever finds this all the way at the bottom. Let's move it down to my copyright sub-page for experts, and I'll move that across. So as you can see, it's a nice way for you to start to streamline the look and feel of your OPAC homepage, giving users an opportunity to group content based on resource, subject, or topic. Now, let's say that the sub-pages can be edited or removed, and that means that you can change the name or the position of it in the hierarchy. You can also copy a sub-page link, which means that you can take it across to another branch. Now, if you've got multiple branches and this is something that you'd like to get underway, get in touch with our support team. They'd be more than happy to help you map out a structure to get the most from this feature. So that brings us to the end of some of our great features that sit here in Liberty. But before we wrap up, I wanted to show you some great changes we've made to our Liberty Link app. So let's head back to my presentation, and I will bring up the relevant slide. In the latest release with Liberty, patch 8.054, we've made some great changes to the Liberty Link app. Now, bear in mind, if you're hosted, this will happen automatically. Otherwise, you might want to check the version that you're running to make sure you get these latest and greatest features. We've introduced Z cataloging into the app, federated search, and search predictions. I've got some screenshots on the following slides that help you have an idea of what we're rolling out. Here's our predictive search, which functions exactly the way as it does on our OPAC. Type in the first few letters of a word and you'll see options appear in a drop-down underneath. Our federated search has also moved into Liberty Link, with the resources and connectors that you would normally find on your OPAC available to your patrons in the app. And something for all of the librarians out there who love Z cataloging as much as me, you can now Z catalog via the app. It's really intuitive, using the camera on your smartphone to scan an ISBN, choose a source, add the record, and then import it. The process and the steps are much the same as the features in our management side of Liberty. Of course, though, with the app, you're also able to change the cover image of the resource that you've just imported using Z cataloging. So as you can see, that brings us to the end of this new features webinar. There's plenty of updates, changes and enhancements in this release, including updates to our acquisitions module, an integration with Google Analytics, fantastic new features when importing MARC records, OPAC homepage changes, including the ability to add sub-pages. You know we're always looking for ways to improve Liberty, and the support team is always ready to help if you need it. So remember to get in touch. We'll now move over to the Q&A session. Thank you for joining me today.